Hey YouTube, so accessories for your milling on your drill press. Oh look, there's one of those paper shims that I guess that was like the 7th one that I put in my rotary table down there, my XYZ table. Alright, so this is how I get around not being able to stand my rotary table on edge. You can get rotary tables that can lay down flat or stand on their edge. I wanted the XYZ functionality more than I wanted to be able to stand on edge. So anyway, it was one or the other. You can't get both in the same unit. So anyway, yeah, what I got, I would have to say, is way more useful to me than having the ability to take that thing and rotate it 90 degrees. Although that does have its place. So, like you see these screw holes around this perimeter, or like those set screws in my little disc that I made. If you could take your rotary table and stand it on end, you could then rotate the table, 60 degrees, drill the next one, 60 degrees, drill the next one, so on. So it would make that kind of thing easy. But this little kit right here cost me 50 bucks. The collets were a little bit more money, but not much. And I only have two, because that's the two sizes I use most. So what I have here is a 4-sided index block. Again, these are Chinesium grade. They're not super good, but they're good enough for what I do for drill press milling. So anyway, 4 sides lets you clamp something in here, rotate it, get a 90-degree cut, rotate it, you get a 180-degree cut, rotate it again, another 90 degrees, and so on. Alright, so this is 6-sided. So previously I showed 6-sided flats on that Outrunner's motor shaft end. And I did it with this 6-sided index block. And basically what you do is you take a collet, stick it in there, tighten this ring nut with your little tool. So this only works for round things, by the way, that you stick inside the collet, and I'll show you a collet in a second. But I gotta pull this out. So this is a Chinesium 5C collet made by Shars, whoever the hell they are. In fact, the whole thing's made by Shars. But yeah, they're not super hard. Like like if you were to go buy a Starrett, it would be much better quality than this. But for the level of intricacy and quality of work that I consider to be acceptable, hey, I am milling on a drill press. This is plenty good enough. And I forget what these things were. I think these were like $10 a piece, and I think this was like $40. I don't ever use this thing. This is useless. I use the nuts. This doesn't hold tight enough. So essentially what has to happen is you can see how that's got that profile on there, this raised surface, and you'll notice inside here you have this surface, which is also a elongated cone. So when you tighten up the nut, you are squeezing this cone into that cone and squeezing against whatever's inside it. So this is super useful if you want to do features on like a motor shaft, something that's round, or let's say you want to put a 4-sided head on a nut, on a screw rather, that's got a 6-sided head on it. So clamp that bad boy in a collet that's the right size, of which I have 12 millimeter and 15 millimeter, because that's what motor shafts that I typically work on are. But clamp that in the right size collet, and these things come in every size you can imagine. And stick it in here, clamp it all together, and all you got to do is rotate it 90 degrees, cut a flat, rotate it, cut a flat, rotate it, cut a flat. Piece of cake. I haven't done this yet, but you're going to use this with a cross vise, most likely. So this is one time when I'd have to say that the cross vise is the right tool, because it's much, much harder to set this thing up, turn it, set it up, turn it, on a setup where you've got to use your hold down kit like this. Whereas, in your cross vise, you can just clamp it down. So there's one little modification I'm going to do to the cross vise. So this is your moving jaw, this is your fixed jaw. And right here on the fixed jaw, I'm going to drill and tap a hole in here and put a little arm that I can swivel down or rotate out of the way. And the whole point of that thing is that it will just touch a corner of my index block. So all I have to do every time I loosen this up is touch up against that little arm, and that's going to be my index for in and out on here. So that all I have to do is touch that little arm, lock it down, do whatever work I got to do, loosen it up, rotate, touch the arm again, and I'm always set up right. What I'm doing right now is, let me loosen this up a little bit, so here's the index block. I stick it in here, and I basically feel where that is. So I'm just trying to be parallel with my finger between the edge of the jaw and the edge of the index block, and then I lock it down. So this is fraught with errors. It's fraught with opportunities to accidentally bump it before you get it locked down. It's less consistent and more likely to not index, or rather position back and forth exactly the same every single time. I just had a little arm that I could drop down and just cross the corner down here. All I have to do is like butt up against that thing, and it's the same every single time. So I'm going to do that like right in here. I've got plenty of beef in the metal to be able to put a little arm that I'll drop down right across there, and then I can swivel it out of the way for when it's, not needed. But index blocks, these don't have to cost you a lot. You don't have to spend $250 for them. You can find them on eBay, out of China for next to nothing. So what I did is I bought these from the USA. They're still Chinesium, right? They're still soft steel. They're not hardened or anything. But I bought them from the USA, so that way once I got them and I checked them out, if they were crap, I could send them back to the US seller and get another set. But it ended up being that these ones were good. They were fine. They were just great. This is a great accessory to have because it lets you do indexing, rotating something, and if you need more than 6 or 4 index points, then let me know. I have yet to need more than that. I certainly don't need all the incremental points that I have on here. I have yet to need more than 6 sides. So like this part on here, those 6 set screws around that perimeter, they were done with a 6-sided index block. I have never needed more than that. Anyway, great tool to have. Collets come in many different sizes, so if these ones aren't your size, you can find them. They're cheap. This was a great deal right here, and it didn't cost me a whole lot of money. All right, so that's index blocks and collets.